Call to order the Ironton City Council meeting of October 13th, 2022. With us for invocation tonight, we have Pastor Kim Gabbard with Impact Church. If you would stand for invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance immediately following.
Will you pray with me? Our precious Heavenly Father, we just come before you tonight, Father, and we just thank you so much for just this beautiful day. We thank you for the things that you do for us and the things that you bless us with, Father, and just for being present in our lives. And so, Father, tonight I would like to dedicate this meeting to you, Father. Please give us, everyone here, everyone that's involved, wisdom and discernment, Father. May we have just a spirit of unity in this room, Father. We thank you so much for our city that you have blessed over and over and over, Father. And may we just be good stewards for those things that you have given us, Father. Lord, we love you so, so much, and I pray all of these things in the precious name of Jesus, and amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Evans. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please, Martha.
Cleary.
Here.
Haney.
Here.
Harvey. Hawk.
Here.
Klein.
Here.
Harry.
Here.
Pierce.
Here. Craig did say it's his son's last 8th grade game tonight, so he is attending that 8th grade game. So he did, well, I think he sent a group email out. Next on the agenda, we have the approval of minutes from the regular council meeting of September 22nd, 2022, and the finance committee meeting of September 22nd, 2022. Do we have any edits, additions, omissions to those minutes? Seeing none, those minutes will stand as approved. Next, we have an audience participation. If you'd like to address council, please step to the podium, state your name and address, and you will have 5 minutes to speak to council.
Good evening. Chief Scott, 1414 South 5th Street, Ironton, Ohio, here in the city. I want to thank the council for our situation there on 5th Street. That it's been looked at. There's other situations. I talked to Mr. Klein a couple days ago, and I think we'll continue working at it to get to resolving what we're looking for. But we still have a lot of trouble situation in our area. But I see that there's other situations there. I heard the recommendation of Mr. Klein. But we have a drug issue in our area. And I just hate to see, because it brought to my attention, one of the neighbors said they found syringes in the alley. And our sanitation workers go through there, and it's bad. But I want to thank you all for listening to me, for responding to our situation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Scott.
Tom Schwab, Ironton, Ohio. I'm just wondering what kind of progress has been made on the rehab housing and the zoning on the rehab housing. Have you all come up with anything, or are you working on it, or, I mean, it's been...
Nate?
Tom, one of the things we're wanting to do is, and this is going to be given at least first reading today, is establishing a business zoning permit. And this is going to require businesses to register with both the income tax department and the zoning department, if passed, to make sure that they are whatever their business operation is as a permitted use in that zoning area. That's not just for rehabilitation facilities, that's for everyone. Just to make sure that, number one, we're able to follow the zoning codes that we already have in place now. So I think that was one of those things we said was a priority when we had our meeting strategizing how we want to move forward with this, was using the zoning code that we have now and being able to implement that. And I think being able to identify businesses and where they operate and having them accountable for those operations that we have now is an important piece. So that is given the first reading tonight.
Yeah.
As far as other actions, I'm working with the solicitor right now and drafting some language for additional ordinance and some zoning change, and I'm hoping to have that for our next meeting on the 27th. So I'd like to invite you to come
I can't
to
be
that.
here on the 27th.
Cannot?
No, I got
Well, I'll tell you what,
Cincinnati.
as soon as they have it drafted, I'll be happy to forward that agenda to you so that you can take a look at it. And you can watch it on YouTube. If you have any comments on it, feel free to share that to me individually.
Okay, well, you know, the point I was trying to make was, are you all gonna zone how many houses can be in a certain block, a certain area? Because that's what needs to be addressed. I know these rehab houses, they've just come around. It's not just a business. It's something new for the city, for all towns, and, you know, something needs to be put on the book. In these residential areas, how many houses can you have on a block or in a certain number of blocks? That's the problem we're having with Ironton, because they are popping up 3 and 4 on a block now. And when this moratorium runs out, if you go up there, the Ironton Tribune, they're almost done with that. That's going to be that Lawrence County recovery. And you know, it's just going to open up. If you don't have something in place, this is going to get a lot worse in Ironton. And we've got so many facilities in Ironton. There's no way that we have that many people in Lawrence County and Ironton that need to be in rehab for the drugs and stuff. I mean, if they're bringing in other people from other areas, what do they do after they come out of rehab? Do they send them back to where they're from, or do they stay here? You know, you addressed that in that ordinance, and it's been 10 months, and this is the problem we're having, and you even addressed that problem, and this is what I'm talking about, that, you know, there needs to be some kind of zoning on how many houses can be in a certain area. I know that you're talking about making businesses responsible for their taxes and stuff like that, and that's good for the city, but I'm talking about the neighborhoods. And the penalties, if there's some of these houses, you know, before it was 5 people if they weren't related, and you dropped it down to 3. There's houses in this town that have a lot more than that. And what are the penalties for that? There ought to be penalties set up for it, and I think there are. You know, all this needs to be addressed.
If you know of houses like that, then please get on our website and report that, because we have an enforcement officer specifically for that. So, I mean, please get on our website and
This
report
needs to
that.
be put, you know, in writing for them, for everyone that has a house in Ironton that's has these rehab houses. They ought to be very knowledgeable in how many people they can have in that house.
Chris?
Part of the penalty is, like Mr. Klein was discussing, you know, the pieces of ordinance that go into the taxation. That's making sure that they register with the Department of Taxation. That's one of the ways that this thing has teeth. But as far as the number of people, I agree with you, Mr. Schwab. It seems disproportionate, but unfortunately, based on whatever the exiting criteria are when somebody is in some sort of a recovery program, if their home county says you have to follow this stipulation, that stipulation, and the other, and if there are facilities available in Ironton, then sadly, unfortunately, it snowballs to
That's exactly what's happened.
Lawrence and Scioto County. Now, that's not to say that it's specifically deliberate. I don't think that that's the case.
I think it's,
but-
I think it is.
And
I
I
think
think-
it's,
and I-
Ironton is considered a rehab town. We have all these facilities in Ironton, and it's to the point where, you know, it's getting totally out of hand. I mean, you call Marietta and ask them, and they even hired a zoning advisor to address this. And I brought this up a couple months ago at this meeting.
Nate, go ahead.
I just want to talk to a few points of what you said right there. You know, we have to be very careful when we're addressing some of the issues that we're facing, that we are not discriminating against people.
Oh, I understand
So-
that part of it.
So, people with disabilities, you know, we cannot
I'm not talking about disability. Oh, well, you can consider,
Well, according to the federal government,
Yeah.
they do apply to that. So as a city, we have to be very concerned that we're not discriminating against people with disabilities. And that's something we have to take into consideration when we move forward with this. So one of the things that we're trying to do is use the zoning that we already have, and some of those things you've already pointed out, as far as the number of people that are allowed in dwelling, and try to kind of attack some of those root issues. I think some of those issues are, yes, 16 people living in one home or whatever it might be. We have laws on the books right now that need to be enforced, that could be enforced. And I think clarification of those and providing tools for those, for the people in the zoning and code enforcement to follow is a big part of what we need to be doing moving forward. Okay, so I think I've been aggravating Mac and Brigham to death. They're probably about ready to kill me. But one of the opinion requests I've asked is what is considered a dwelling, no matter what zone it's in. So that is where I'm talking. Whether it's in a business zone, if it's a residential zone, how many people can live in unrelated people can live in a dwelling? Is a dwelling in an R1 the same as a B2? I think that would lighten up some confusion. I think in my mind, a dwelling's a dwelling. And wherever it is, it should be no more than 3 unrelated people. If it was before that was passed, it should be no more than 5 unrelated people before that was passed. So I think getting that clarified, addressing that, identify where those are, would eliminate a lot of issues that you might be seeing coming from those areas.
but
Now, as far as what we're looking to do moving forward, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you that we're looking at doing some sort of regulation towards temporary and short-term housing overall. As far as the housing is, just to address preserving neighborhood character and to address affordable housing to our residents that are in need of that. So that's something we're looking to address moving forward. When it comes to the site on Ironton Tribune, I again asked our solicitor to give an opinion as to whether or not that is a permitted use at that location. And I'm waiting to hear that opinion back. So I just kind of want to address everything you talked about there.
But, you know, Nate, I don't understand how a small town like Ironton can have.
Hang on a second. This is getting redundant here. Now,
How many-
hold on, hang on a second. I've spoken to you at least 3 times on this issue, and I told you, Mr. Schwab, listen, we are working on this, and I promise you, we will have something in place, or we will have legislation that has to be holistic. And I've told you that, I know 3
And
times.
I understand
Okay,
all that.
but you keep on coming up asking the same questions, and we're working, believe me. We've spent hours in meetings with it. We've spent hours in meetings, so we are doing something. We're doing stuff, believe me.
What I don't
But hang
understand,
on,
Chris.
hang on a second. Your time's up, and I've told you 3 times that we're doing stuff about this, okay?
What I don't understand, Chris, is how can so many rehab
Sergeant
facilities
Arms.
be in a small town like
We're
Ironton?
going, hang on a second. Listen, please. We are doing something about this. We will have legislation in place. I promise you that. We're working on it. We've worked on it continuously since we put the moratorium in place. And we are working on it. So you coming up here every other week isn't,
I was up here 2 months ago, and before that in February. This is the third time I've been up here.
And I've told you every single time the same thing. And I don't know what else to tell you other than I promise you we are working on it, and I promise you we will have something in place before the moratorium ends. But it has to be holistic. We can't do it piece by piece. It has to be a holistic approach at it and cover all stray ends. We cannot have anything other than that, or it won't be worth the paper that it's written. I promise you, I will reassure you that we are working very hard on this. I promise you.
I'm glad somebody.
I am reassuring you right now,
appreciate it.
we are working on this. We will have something, on the next agenda, and we'll have something on the first agenda in November.
Okay.
I promise you.
All righty.
I promise you. Thank you, Mr. Schwab.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Chairman Haney, take a deep breath.
I'm good.
My name's Brent Piles, 2526 South Fifth Street, Ironton, Ohio. I really came here particularly to ask for a little bit of clarification and maybe a little bit more detail about the ordinance number 2250 that's on the agenda for tonight. I think that's the one, Mr. Klein, that you were just referring to.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I looked at the ordinance, and I read it, and then I heard what you were saying to Mr. Schwab a few minutes ago, and I'm conflicted on what the real, I understand, I think, the spirit of the legislation. I understand what you're trying to do, but I'm a little conflicted on what I'm reading in the ordinance and what might be applicable to, his case and yours too, to try to cover all the bases. First of all, it's called a business zoning permit. You're going to establish that. And I understand you're trying to look at businesses as they exist, I guess, in the city now. I'm guessing this based upon what I'm reading in the ordinance, or are you looking at businesses to be established or in the process of being established? Because I kind of heard that in your discussion with Mr. Schwab. You're looking to try to look at maybe some of these rehab houses particularly, and maybe other things, but the rehab houses, and you're trying to see what you can do to maybe regulate those or kind of slow the flow down going forward. What are we talking about here? Because this thing talks about businesses, all the businesses. Does that mean, in section 2 it says all businesses operating in Ironton. Does that mean that all the businesses? My wife has a business that's been established for 44 years in the city of Ironton. So now she's going to have to go and get a zoning permit, and she's been there for 44 years. Is that what this is all about? You're asking for data. I looked at the form that you attached to it. I'm looking at that data, and each year she files her income tax, pays her taxes, etc., and she submits more information to the city than what you're asking for on this application. She sends a Schedule C in with it, which is more detailed than what you really need to follow this. So I guess I'm asking, what is your intent here? Are we going to go back and pound on businesses that have long been established and cause them to get a permit, or are we looking for new businesses? Are we going to grandfather in the old businesses and look at the new businesses that are going to be established in Ironton? What is the intent here?
Nate?
First of all, thanks for coming up, and I respect you very much as a business owner, and I appreciate you coming up to speak. And I do want to say before I get started is my intent with this is to give it 3 separate readings, because I want people to be able to come in and express their feelings about this. So I was going to make that statement before.
Let me stop you right there.
Read.
I appreciate that, because I look at your legislation on your agendas that you put out every 2 weeks, and everything is on emergency measure, which gives the citizenry no opportunity to talk and discuss it among themselves and present anything. And things are really passed on emergency measure more than anything in this, on this council. So I appreciate that thing. So I'm sorry to interrupt, but I do appreciate that.
Okay, so yes, so I'm putting this proposal out for both current and future businesses located in Ironton. Right now, the city has no way of being able to track or know where a business is operating unless it is reported to the income tax department or it is self-reports itself about that. So for example, some of the things we've had issues with is a funeral home opening up in a R1 area, and that was not known to the city until it was done. So there's different permitted uses in different zoned areas. So the intent of it was to make sure that businesses are operating where they are zoned correctly. So, yes, I understand that businesses have been here for decades and have operated where they are. But I don't know. I mean, I'm asking your opinion. Do you think all current businesses should be excluded from this? I mean, I'm curiously asking because maybe there are some solutions, but my opinion is, I think we need to make sure that people are operating so that we don't have a funeral home beside a single-family home. We don't have a treatment in a residential zone. We don't have, you know what I'm trying to say?
I understand, and personally, you're asking my opinion. I look at current businesses that have long been established here in Ironton, and I think they ought to be grandfathered in. I don't think that you need to go back and even further burden these businesses with another biennial, fee, and that's basically what you're doing here. I think that you should look at and try to control what's going forward and look at the growth, because that seems to be our problem right now. The problem's not the old businesses. The problems are the new businesses that are coming in or popping up in the neighborhoods or whatever the case may be. That's what we're going to have to control or make some attempt to control through legislation. I look at this ordinance and I think that, although like I said, I think I understand the spirit of what you're trying to do here. You're talking about businesses. What's your definition of businesses? I mean, are we talking about, professionals, lawyers, doctors? Are we talking about all the businesses that are operating out there that probably everybody else, that's in this room knows about, all the cash babysitters, the permanent rummage sales that are going on in the city? That doesn't take a lot of investigation to find out. I mean, I can tell you in my neighborhood, I've got 2 situations going on. There's probably less than 2 blocks from me. That's there all the time. And it's not like it's hidden. It's right on the main thoroughfare through Ironton. I mean, they're there every day. They're in commerce. I mean, that's basically it. Now, you're saying, well, you need to report that. I don't need to report that. You have an enforcement officer that probably drives by there at least once a week or something like that. I mean, that's what we need. We need enforcement by a city official or, some representative of the city that has the authority to be able to go in and look at what's going on, ask for the proper documentation, look at the records, and then go in the city and see what the data shows. Are they filing taxes? Are they a business? Are they properly, filing the taxes under the proper name, et cetera, just like we do, Those are the things that I think that we need to do. There's no definition in here about businesses.
The intent of it was not to be taxing at any point. The $25 per year was not meant to put a burden, substantial burden.
And I don't think $25 will put anybody out. It's just the idea.
That's not the intent of it. The intent, and we wanted to give businesses an opportunity if they wanted to promote themselves on our city website, a link, so forth, that they could access that. But, you know, I think, you know, the intent of it was to be able to capture, you know, what all businesses are actually operating. And maybe you say we should be able to drive around and find that. I don't know that it is as easy as what you're saying. I don't know.
I'll just tell you.
I think maybe it might not.
Maybe I have a better eye for these things than somebody else does, but it doesn't take much for me to go along and see things that are occurring every day, every week, that, you know, there's no permit, I mean, I see construction going on in the city all the time that I know they don't have construction permits. Again, I look at my block. Right now, I've got a construction project going on my block where somebody's converting a garage into an apartment. Now, they're gonna rent it. Now, did they connect to the sewer? Did they pay for another sewer tap for that garage? No. They dug a sewer line down to the house that they owned and they plugged it in. Did they do water? Nah. They buried the water line in the same ditch they put the sewer line in and hooked it to the house. Now, it took them days to do that, and it wasn't like it was being hidden or done, you know, in the dark of night. You know, these are the things that occur in the city that I think that one person, and that's basically who you have doing your enforcement right now, is one person. And I like Mr. Ross. I think he does a good job.
I agree.
But I don't think he has the resources, you know, other individuals or whatever to help him. And I just don't think that we should create a rat hotline, you know, and that's basically what you're asking for, is that everybody rat them out. That's what I asked Mr. Schwab for a minute ago. And that's not what we want in the city, is people telling on people. We want the city to enforce the laws they have on the books and be able to operate under those rules and regulations effectively for the citizenry of Ironton. And that's what we need. But I look at this, you know, I see where, you know, we're gonna have a biennial fee, you know, and these things are gonna be expiring. I mean, literally, the way it's written, these things are gonna be expiring at all different times. Who in the city is going to be looking at this and knowing when these things are expired and when they're not expired? You know, who's going to enforce that? I mean, I think that this, again, I understand the spirit, but I just look at these things and say, you know, we get these ordinances and put them on the books, and they're not well thought out. They're not thought out to the end. We don't know what the end game's going to be on them. This is one of them that I think might not be bad, but I think it needs to be thought about, and some meat needs to be put on the bones of this thing to make it so it's a workable situation for both what you want, and when I say you, I'm talking about council, the governmental body that we all look for, you know, we look to you to try to do these things, what you want, and what we want is the citizens of Ironton. This just doesn't seem to add up. You know, I mean, after it's there, I mean, is there going to be a registry? I think that's what I heard you wanted. You want a business registry, ultimately.
I think that, yes.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay. So is that registry going to be available for us to look at?
I think it would be a public
Yes.
record, yes.
And that would be online or something like that, or you just haven't
I think it
thought
could be
it
made
through?
available. I was hoping the proceeds for this could be used for some software for sharing between departments, between zoning, income tax, police, fire, for where these businesses are located. Right now, if someone doesn't come and say, I'm registering with the income tax department, it's up to, like you said, Mr. Ross or possibly Mr. Joseph to bump into them to figure it out, or a resident to report it.
Right.
And I just think that's not the best approach to doing that. Now that we're talking, if you think it's a burden on existing businesses, maybe it's a one-time registration and it's perpetual unless you change locations or add a location, just to ensure that number one, it's registered, we know where it's at.
But don't you already have that data? It's just a matter of mining the data.
We have where businesses have filed for the income tax department.
That's
we
what I'm
don't
saying.
have-
It's,
but
that's
what
as
if that
good a data
business-
as you're gonna
what
get.
if- What if that business has multiple locations?
You'll be able to pick it up the next filing period. Now, it'll be a year. But in this case, it'll be 2 years before you pick it up again.
If
Maybe.
you, well,
If they,
if
if
you
they
read,
even
if you
do
read
it.
it, if anything changes, an additional location is made, they have to go back and refile.
Where does that say that in this ordinance?
I thought it was in the application, that would have to be updated.
And that, Mr. Klein, is what I'm asking, that council look at this legislation that they propose. And again, I appreciate you for putting this on where it will be at least given first reading, maybe second reading, or whatever the case may be. But I just think that, again, when we do something like this, we should look at every section, think about what we're doing, how we're going to do it, how we're going to afford it, and who's going to enforce it or, execute it in some way. This thing kind of looks to me like that it's loosely written, based upon a concept, and that's basically what we have before us. I look at this and say, give it a reading, put it out there, get it on your agenda. But again, until it's given more thought, more debate, maybe give it some more public review, something like that. I just think that maybe it should be tabled so that you guys have more of an opportunity to talk about some of the things that you and I have talked about here in this short few minutes that we've discussed this. It's you've got to be able to cover the bases. I can't look at a law, and I can't expect Mr. Ross or anybody like that to look at this and know what the intent is if it's not written into the law.
Would you be willing to meet, because I think Nate's intent on this, giving it 3 readings, is to get feedback. And I know you know some business owners in town. Maybe we could have a workshop or something, Nate, if you're open to that,
Yep.
I think I don't think Nate created this legislation and sponsored this legislation intending to harm any business, anything like that. He did it in very good faith. I think it's a good step, but if enough people are feeling this way about this ordinance, I'd like to at least have a workshop about it and make it, I don't like putting legislation, personally, I don't like putting legislation that leaves loose ends out. Yeah, that's, like I said to Mr. Schwab, and we're working on everything, and I like to have it closed,
To answer your question, Chairman Haney, I have no problem working with Nate or anybody on the committee or anybody else in the city as far as that's concerned. It's just, I sit back here, I'm here probably as much as you guys are at these meetings, to be quite honest about it. And I look at some of these ordinances that hit the books, and I sit back there and I can't help but think, how are we going to enforce these? How are we going to make these things happen? Because they've just been kind of loosely put on the books because we know there's a problem. This will take care of it. I don't think it will take care of it unless you have some real thought put into it and have the meat either in the ordinance or in a supplement to the ordinance or something like that, so that it helps people understand a little bit more about what to expect from this legislation that's before them. So yes, if that's what we want to do, that's fine.
How about we
But
give
I
it
just
a
think it
couple
needs to
days
be
do
tabled.
do some homework, and you kind of get, whoever you're wanting to have in the workshop, and we'll talk about it, give us some dates, and,
I mean, obviously, Mr. Klein's the sponsor on this. I'll wait for his lead on this. I mean, it's at your suggestion. It's not like I got a lot of things to do, but me and the doctor seem to be more involved than anything else. But we'll have to work in between that schedule.
I'm telling you, the intent is to give zoning, additional tool to be able to address some of the issues that we're facing.
And I agree with what you're saying, and that's why I said, I think I understand that spirit. I just look at it and say, we need to specifically give them the limitations, or give them the, you know, the lead, whatever it takes for them to do what we want them to do, and what we expect out of them. And that's the only thing I ask, is, you know, have the detail, have the meat put on the bones. Okay?
I appreciate your input.
And I'll just wait for your lead.
Well, I know, I do, like I said, I genuinely, I wanted 3 readings. I know that you are connected to a lot of people also in the business community. And you have my phone number, correct?
Yes.
Please have them call me, contact me. I would like to get their feedback also.
Okay. Will do.
And then we'll set something up. We'll do a follow-up.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Piles. Mayor's not here. Any other audience participation? Seeing none, moving on to communications, there are none. Reports, there are none. Moving along to ordinances. Marta, would you please give the ordinance 2250 first reading?
Ordinance to establish a business zoning permit, first reading.
Jacob?
Make a motion to amend ordinance 2250. In the third, whereas, it says biannual, it should be biennial. And then I think it's also in section 3, it says biannual, that should also be biennial.
Chris?
I'll second.
We have a motion by Jacob and a second by Chris to amend ordinance 2250. Roll call, please.
Cleary.
Aye.
Haney.
Aye.
Hawk.
Aye.
Klein.
Aye.
Perry.
Aye.
Pierce.
Aye.
Ordinance 2250 has been amended. Moving on to ordinance 2252. Would you please give that first reading?
Authorizing the mayor to accept the bid of Lift Now Automotive Equipment Corp. For the delivery and installation of a truck vehicle lift and to enter into a contract with said company and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Bob?
I'd like to make a mention that this was given a favorable recommendation in the Finance Committee. And I'd like to go on this, I'd like to give this second, third reading by title only, possible adoption.
Discussion?
Mike, discussion.
I did speak with Mr. Pemberton, and he is going to call this company and check on service, ability, and a delivery timeline. So I just wanted to make note of that in the minutes.
Thank you. Just for clarification, this is the lift that we need to work on our city vehicles that's going into the new city garage on South 3rd. Jacob?
I'll second Bob's motion.
We have a motion by Bob and a second by Jacob. Roll call, please, Mark.
Cleary.
Aye.
Haney.
Aye.
Hawk.
Aye.
Klein.
Aye.
Perry.
Aye.
Pierce.
Aye.
The rules have been suspended for ordinance 2252. Would you please give Chris? Yes.
I'd just like to mention that, I think Mike mentioned about Michael Pemberton looking into some things. He said it was 6-month delivery, and I think we need to get this thing going. And if there's some hiccup on where it's going to be a year, we want to back out of it, we can. So I think we need to go ahead and pass this thing and get it on board
as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? Marta, would you please give ordinance 2252 second and third reading by title only?
Authorizing the mayor to accept the bid of Lift Now Automotive Equipment Corp. For the delivery and installation of a truck vehicle lift and to enter into a contract with said company and declaring an emergency.
Jacob?
Second.
Oh, sorry.
Authorizing the mayor to accept the bid of Lift Now Automotive Equipment Corp. For the delivery and installation of a truck vehicle lift and to enter into a contract with said company and declaring an emergency. Third reading.
Jacob.
Make a motion to adopt ordinance 2252.
Bob.
I'll second motion to adopt 2252.
Motion by Jacob, second by Bob. Roll call, please.
Cleary.
Aye.
Haney.
Aye.
Hawk.
Aye.
Klein.
Aye.
Harry.
Aye.
Pierce.
Aye.
Ordinance 2252 has been adopted. Moving on to ordinance 2253. Would you please give that first reading by title only?
Authorizing the mayor to accept the bid of Rick Eplean Paving, Inc. for Ironton Paving Phase 1 and to enter into a contract with said company and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Bob.
I'd like to also make a motion that Finance Committee give that the favorable recommendation. And we have talked about this earlier, whether to do it now or in the spring, but we need to at least get it on the books to have it started in the process. So I'd like to suspend rules, give second, third reading, and possible adoption.
Jacob.
I'll second that motion.
Discussion?
Discussion, Mike.
As Bob said, we discussed this a bit earlier in finance, and I'm in agreement with Bob, and I think there are probably other council members that although we'd like to see the roads paved right now, waiting till spring would be the best. I don't see the need in putting roads down and then potholes popping up during the winter. This is a huge expense, and I just think it would be best to wait and use our wisdom in this and wait just a few months, and I think it would give us a better job. It would last for years instead of months.
Have a motion by Bob and a second by Jacob to suspend the rules. Roll call, please, Mark.
Cleary.
Aye.
Haney.
Aye.
Hawk.
Aye.
Klein.
Aye.
Harry.
Aye.
Pierce.
Aye.
Rules have been suspended for ordinance 2253. Would you please give that second and third reading by title only?
Authorizing the mayor to accept the bid of Rick Eplean Paving, Inc. for Ironton Paving Phase 1 and to enter into a contract with said company and declaring an emergency. Second reading. Authorizing the mayor to accept the bid of Rick Eplean Paving, Inc. for Ironton Paving Phase 1 and to enter into a contract with said company and declaring an emergency. Third reading.
Bob.
Move to adopt ordinance 2253.
Jacob.
I'll second that.
Have a motion by Bob and a second by Jacob to adopt 2253. Roll call, please.
Cleary.
Aye.
Haney.
Aye.
Hawk.
Aye.
Klein.
Aye.
Harry.
Aye.
Pierce.
Aye.
Ordinance 2253 has been adopted. Moving along to ordinance 2254. Would you please give that first reading, Mark?
Adopting the temporary budget for the city of Ironton, state of Ohio for the fiscal year ending December 31, 2023, and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Bob.
Make a motion that we give ordinance 2254 second, third reading, possible adoption.
Jacob.
I'd like to second that motion and make mention that this ordinance received favorable recommendation by finance.
Have a motion by Bob and a second by Jacob to suspend the rules for ordinance 2254. Roll call, please, Mark.
Cleary.
Aye.
Haney.
Aye.
Hawk.
Aye.
Klein. Harry.
Aye.
Pierce.
Aye.
Rules have been suspended for ordinance 2254. Would you please give that reading, second and third reading by title only, please?
Adopting the temporary budget for the city of Ironton, state of Ohio for the fiscal year ending December 31, 2023, and declaring an emergency. Second reading. Adopting the temporary budget for the city of Ironton, state of Ohio for the fiscal year ending December 31, 2023, and declaring an emergency. Third reading.
Bob.
Move to adopt ordinance 2254.
I'll second.
Mike. We have a motion by Bob and a second by Mike to adopt ordinance 2254. Roll call, please, Mark.
Cleary.
Aye.
Haney.
Aye.
Hawk.
Aye.
Klein.
Aye.
Harry.
Aye.
Pierce.
Aye.
Ordinance 2254 has been adopted. Moving on to resolutions. Marta, would you please give reading to resolution 2251?
Designating a portion of parcels of land owned by the city of Ironton as temporary and permanent rights-of-way as shown and described in the attached exhibits A and B, and declaring an emergency.
Bob?
Make a motion that we favorably recommend resolution 2251.
I'll second.
Pass? Pass.
Pass.
Pass 2251?
Yeah.
Have a motion by Bob and a second by Mike to pass resolution 2251. Roll call, please. Nate, discussion. Sorry, go ahead.
Sponsor, can you give us a little bit about what this is? 100% sure it says North Fifth Street.
It's right away, let's see here, exhibit A. It is the North Fifth Street Bridge, I'm pretty sure. Is that correct, Matt?
Yes.
From what I've understood, it's for right of ways if that bridge, if the bridge goes out, correct?
Yeah, and the construction.
Right.
I believe it's both ends of the bridge.
Okay. You good?
I think isn't this for the water line? Not
This is
the
for
bridge.
to start the construction for the bridge and water line.
Okay, I was thinking the water line.
By the engineer, I mean, this is what the
Yeah.
engineer.
Yeah.
Saying
I think the water line was first in line.
Yeah.
And the bridge.
So that's basically
Okay.
dotting our i's and crossing our t's for the North Fifth Street Bridge project.
Okay.
Good?
Yep.
Now, we have a motion by Bob and a second by Mike to pass resolution 2251. Roll call, please.
Cleary.
Yes.
Haney.
Aye.
Hawk.
Aye.
Klein.
Aye.
Harry.
Aye.
Pierce.
Aye.
Resolution 2251 has been passed. Moving on to miscellaneous. Miscellaneous. I have two things. We have rec basketball signups coming up on November 22nd and November 29th down in the lobby, 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. that's any kids 3rd through 6th grade or kindergarten through 2nd grade. So you have two different leagues, kindergarten K through 2 league, B teams 3 and 4, A teams 5 and 6. So that'll be the 22nd, 29th, I'm sorry, I think I said November, October 22nd, 29th, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m.
11 a.m.
Chris?
First time you said 11 p.m. just-
Did I?
Yeah.
See, I messed that all up. November and PM, everybody shut up, all kinds of different times. So 22nd and 29th, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m.
Gotcha.
Where? Downstairs in the lobby, city building.
Two
And
things.
that's all I've got.
Move to adjourn.
I just have a couple little things.
Okay.
I would remind the community that I think it's 36 days we have our election, and the rec levy will be on that election. And just encourage them to look at all the things that are done with that levy and vote with your heart. Also, while we're in session, I want to call a PUC meeting for 5:15 on October 27th, and we'll be discussing the
That's prior to the next meeting, right?
prior to the next meeting. Wastewater treatment plant site investigation and miscellaneous sewer work. We'll be taking a look at that.
PUC meeting 5:15, 27th, before the next meeting.
Yes,
Good deal.
that's it.
All right, Bob?
Motion to adjourn.
Chris?
Second.
Motion by Bob, second by Chris to adjourn. Roll call, please.
Cleary.
Aye.
Haney.
Aye.
Hawk.
Aye.
Klein.
Aye.
Harry.
Aye.
Pierce.
Aye. Almost said no.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you guys for attending.